In this video, I'm going to discuss the impact of HDB rental flats on day-to-day living as well as the potential resale value. This is a question that a lot of people have on their mind but rarely discuss openly, so I thought why not make a video about this. If we look at the October 2025 BTO launch, 5 out of 10 projects have some sort of dedicated HDB rental units. For the most part, these rental flats are given their own dedicated blocks. The exception is for bishan terraces, where certain blocks are mixed, the lower half is rental units and the upper half is normal BTO units. This is obviously not a new trend. The government is actually fully aware of the stigma versus value balancing act. The current strategy of integrating rental flats with sold flats in the same precinct is a key move. By building them together, they hope to reduce the isolation and stigma because if a whole neighborhood is mixed income, it's harder to single out specific areas. And I think they also want to prevent a price crash. So the government has a huge interest in maintaining the value of HDB flats because it is the main asset for most Singaporeans. Policies are constantly adjusted to ensure the market remains stable and sustainable. Over time, as social mixing becomes the norm, the perception might change. If more HDB new BTOs include a mix of rental and sold units, the novelty and the negative stigma hopefully will fade, making it just another feature of the neighborhood. But then the biggest factor driving the concern is often the perceived social stigma associated with HDB rental blocks. Even when I go to online forums, we can easily find different anecdotal experiences and also public opinions about rental units. So historically and in some current public perception, HDB rental flats are seen as housing for the very low income or families in transition, which some resale buyers unfortunately associate with lower socio-economic status, higher instances of social problems, and less pride in the neighborhood. So then I was wondering, has anyone ever done a real study on this topic? And apparently someone did. So back in 2018, an associate professor named Leong Chan Hong from the Singapore University of Social Sciences led a focus group discussion with 27 HDB real estate agents to discuss about this topic. The researchers chose agents because they thought these people are directly involved in transactions and less likely to give socially desirable answers compared to the general public. This study found that after price and location, like being near good schools or family, proximity to public rental blocks was one of the key factors that discouraged potential home buyers. People are worried that having neighbors from different socio-economic status might lead to social friction or issues, particularly for children. And they are also concerned that the area might not be as well maintained. Even though HDB maintains the blocks, the behavior of some tenants can be a concern, and this social perception will deter future buyers, which in turn means you can't sell your flat for as high as possible. So the study concluded that homeowners do regard their neighbors' social economic status as a critical consideration. Proximity to public rental block was seen as a signpost of instability and was associated with lower income and economic limitations, which buyers perceive as possibly reducing their home's value. So this research paper itself was published in the September 2019 in the Journal of Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion. I know this topic is a bit sensitive, so that's why I'm a bit more specific with what study was this. It is important to remember that HDB has been working hard to promote social mixing and reduce this stigma. They have been moving towards integrating rental and sold units within the same block or precinct rather than isolating rental blocks completely. This mix is meant to blur the lines and encourage social integration. However, if I see online forums, again, some people questioning whether that's the right direction to mix the same blocks between rental units and normal BTOs. Rental units are also used for groups like families waiting for their BTOs or seniors who already right-size their flat, which means that the tenant profile is actually quite diverse and not just one low-income demographic. At least that's the intention. Now let's talk about this topic from a financial angle. Does this social concern actually translate into a measurable drop in dollar value? While comprehensive publicly released data that specifically isolates the price difference between HDB flats next door to a dedicated rental block versus those that aren't is hard to pin down, the general consensus among property analysts is that there can be a small discount. So think of it this way. If a potential buyer is deciding between your flat and an identical one in a nearby block, and yours is right next to a dedicated rental block or even shared block, they might use this factor as a negotiating tool to ask for a lower price. It becomes a less desirable attribute, similar to a block facing the rubbish dump or a multi-story car park. There's no specific consistent percentage often cited, but the impact is generally thought to be marginal in the larger context of HDB resale pricing. Of course, the best way to do it would be to pick some examples and do a proper pricing analysis. So comment down below if you want me to go that far to find like historical data from, past HDB that has rental blocks or rental units together as like normal units and see whether there's any price difference in terms of resale value. So comment down below if you want me to do that analysis. The overall market factors such as location, proximity to MRT and amenities, remaining lease, and government cooling measures in general are still the biggest drivers of resale value. Resale data shows that prices are usually tied to town and specific location. For example, a flat in a mature central estate will almost always command a higher price, even if it's near rental units, than a flat in a non-mature remote estate without any rental units. So location in general is still the king. And then the flat condition and size is also impactful. Newer flats and bigger units are always more popular. And then market trends is also something to consider. Whether the overall HDB market is hot or cooling matters far more than the rental block factor alone. In a strong property market, the impact of a nearby rental block might be a tiny or even negligible because the demand is so high. But indeed, when the market cools down, rental units might become a more pronounced factor as buyers have more choice and can be pickier. So in summary, should you worry? While the concern is understandable, people don't want anything to detract from their home's value anyway. The existence of dedicated rental units is unlikely to hurt the resale value in a catastrophic way. Here's the summary. So yes, indeed, there might be a small price sensitivity because some buyers may negotiate for a slight discount due to the perceived proximity to a different demographic, or they even might just buy a completely different unit. It affects the perceived value more than the objective market-driven value, but no, it's not the main factor because the location's overall attributes such as proximity to MRT, amenities, schools, and the flat's characteristics such as remaining lease, size, and floor level, and the national housing market trends are much more dominant in determining your resale price. The future outlook is actually blended. HDB's move towards integrating rental units within residential blocks aims to normalize the presence of different housing types, which could help mitigate the stigma and thus minimize the long-term impact of resale prices. In short, if you're buying a flat in an otherwise excellent location, the presence of dedicated rental units nearby is a factor to consider, but it should not overshadow the many other, more significant elements that dictate your future resale price. Before we end the video, I want to show a poll that I did on my channel because I'm also curious whether you guys think that rental blocks are a big problem for BTO. So about 51% of you said that it doesn't matter, but then there are some people who are concerned. So 18% stated that, die, no rental units at all within the same project. They would rather pick a different project. But then 31% of you is actually open-minded as long as it's located in a different block because there are some concerns with resale value and safety. I know that this poll is very small and it is not a proper representative of what people feel rental units are, but I thought I just would like to share this data point. Let me know in the comment section down below what other topics you would want me to discuss. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!